The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leagues Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to the Paracave Podcast. Troy here. Now, if it sounds like I'm a little bit down, well, I am a lot down. As this is Troy's take about round 5, the Parramatta Eels taking on the Canberra Raiders down there in Canberra at GIO Stadium, and we all know the result now. It was 41 points to 8 in favour of the Raiders. A very disappointing result for the Parramatta Eels and their fans and members indeed. We always knew it was going to be tough going down to Canberra, as they are a very good side down there. Parramatta doesn't have the best of records going down to Canberra. I think they've won 3 or 4 out of their last 17 or something like that. The stats came up during the weekend from various podcasts accounts. 3 out of the last 17 or something like that. It was ridiculous, the record they got down there, the Canberra Raiders against the Eels. So look, we always knew it was going to be tough, and without Mitchell Moses and Bryce Cartwright, as we knew the week before, it was going to be even tougher. But we all thought that the Eels would put in a much better performance than what they did. Look, Canberra kicked off, and at the start of the game, it was, I guess, a good couple of sets from both sides. And in the first couple of sets there, Jordan Rapana, he went down with what looked like to be a knee injury. I think it was a knee injury anyway. And it looked like he was going to be gone for the game. So that could have been a major, I guess, bonus for Parramatta, one of their players being out for the game and them being down to 16 men. But he didn't play. He came back in the second half, I think it was, and absolutely, I mean, he was on one leg, but he was still part of the team, and it was amazing that he came back. For all money, even the commentators are saying it looked like he was gone. So it was amazing that he came back. So that was one thing that Parramatta could have targeted. I think there was a kick put through by Parramatta at one stage, and I think it was Joey Lussick who put the kick through, and I don't know why he didn't kick it anywhere near Jordan Rapana, who was down at the time, and play was still going. So the Raiders, they were probably thinking that play would be stopped as Jordan was down, injured, and it didn't look like he was going to get back up in a hurry, and play was continuing. Joey Lussick, he did a kick, and it just went to the other side of the field. If he had seen that Jordan was down, why wouldn't you kick it at I guess you could call it an injured player, but as play was going on, play probably should have been stopped. I reckon it probably could have been with Jordan down, but it wasn't. So was that the right kick? No, he should have kicked it towards him. So that was a bit disappointing. Look, Canberra almost got off to a flyer of a start through James Schiller, who had a great game. He was one of the players for Canberra of the match. 3 line breaks, and he almost scored the first try, but the pass was called forward. But then for some reason, Canberra put in a kick, and Maika Sivo knocked it on. I don't think he should have actually went for it. I would have probably let it bounce, I guess. I mean, we all know the dangers of a second kick or a bounce of a ball, so I think maybe that's why he tried to get it, but it was only I guess you could call it a hand towards that, so I don't know why he did that. And then Canberra scored shortly after They scored shortly after through a penalty goal to Jamal Fogarty. And then Parramatta came back, and Sean Russell forced Sebastian Chris, who was playing fullback for Jordan Rapana, into touch, and it looked like the Eels were on the charge, but unfortunately, Wiramu Greg loses the ball. I think it was an inside pass from Joey Lussick close to the line, and Parramatta in recent weeks have been doing a number of these, I guess you could call... Well, this one wasn't a crash play, as it was, I think, an inside ball to Wiramu, but unfortunately he lost the ball, and it's very disappointing, the handling errors throughout the game from Parramatta, just what had happened. So, very disappointed in that area of the game. And then Ethan Strange, he broke the line, and it was just a simple, I guess you could call it, missed tackle, misread in defence as well. Parramatta have a history of coming in on the edges, not manning up properly. This one was through in between Sean Russell and Will Penasini, I think it was, and passed the ball onto Hudson Young. Throws an inside ball, and Sebastian Chris, he collected the ball, scored a try, and look, it was 15 minutes gone, the Raiders led 8-0. Again, another good opportunity for Parramatta to score, as RCG, he did a great charge upfield. It was a good run at the time, but unfortunately Blaise Delagi tries to offload and knocks it on. It was a story of the night for Parramatta. Their offloads, they weren't done at the right time, and they were ruled as knock-ons, and their handling errors, they were just all over the place. So unfortunately it wasn't a good night with the hands for Parramatta. The Canberra crowd was a bit upset with old-time player, a former player of the Raiders, Bailey Simonson, who did a tackle on Mariata. The crowd thought it was a hip drop. I didn't think it was that bad. It was nothing like a hip drop, so that wasn't to be ruled that. Otherwise, he would have been on report and sent 10 minutes in the sin bin. He wasn't, but the crowd was upset with that. And then a couple of things that Parramatta did win on the night. Their first of their captain's challenges, as Josh Papali'i tried to offload, and Jermaine Hopgood ended up with the ball for possession for the Eels. And look, they get a couple of six agains, and Junior offloaded to Gutho, who did a dubious pass at the time to Dylan Brown. Look, at the time, I thought maybe he could have got away with that, but he probably should have tried to hold the ball, take the tackle, but he tried to get it away, and it went to Dylan Brown. He kicked it for Maika Sivo, who scored in the corner, but it's ruled no try, as it was ruled that Gutho knocked the ball on into the Canberra defender. As I said, he probably should have just tried to take the tackle. I know what he was trying to do, but he probably should have held onto the ball. Shortly after, Gutho again. Look, Gutho was probably the best player for Parramatta. Once again, as we see for him every single week, he's in and around everything, every piece of play. And this time it was no different, as he stripped the ball from Corey Horsburgh, who was in the act of scoring a try. So there was two people in the tackle. You're allowed to do that when in the act of scoring. So Gutho, he stripped the ball. It was a big play at the time, and as I said, Gutho was probably one of the better players for Parramatta on the night. As I said, in and around everything. He just tried his heart out, as he does every single week. And look, I don't know where Parramatta would be with Gutho not playing as well as Mitch not playing. They'd be in a whole world of pain, I think, because he does do a lot of clean-up and like that, the stripping action and getting the ball as the Canberra player was about to score. So, well done to Gutho last night. If you could say there was a player of the match for Parramatta anyway, he would probably it. Look, again, Parramatta skinny on the edges as well, and they just seem to have really good ball movement out to their edges. And Xavier Savage, who was one of the players of the game for Canberra, 261 run meters for Xavier, and look, he just got on the inside of Russell. He does some great footwork on Gutho and scores a try. And as I said before, just that was in the 28th minute, the second of Canberra's 7 tries. So, as I said before, just on the edges, the edge defence of Parramatta, it's where all teams target because they know that they can't get that right, and it's very, very frustrating. And shortly after half-time, before half-time, Parramatta again get up the Canberra Raiders end. They get a repeat set, but unfortunately there's a good run by Will Penasini, but then Luca Moretti, fresh onto the field, he knocks the ball on. So again, handling errors, story of the night. Just can't get those handling errors right, and once again, in an attacking position, they just couldn't get it back. So, Jamal Fogarty, he kicked a field goal 30 seconds before halftime and gave Canberra the lead 13-0 at halftime. Look, 13-0 at halftime, disappointing. And as I said, the handling errors just really cost Parramatta. They could have been 13-12 at halftime, because Parramatta could have scored a couple of tries before halftime if they held onto the ball. That was their biggest issue, was holding the ball. They only had 44% possession in the game, 24 out of 31 sets for the game, 77% possession rate. I mean, the Canberra Raiders, they only had 78% possession, completion rate, I should say, having 56% of the possession in the game. So, look, their completion rate wasn't too much better, but I think for Parramatta, it was in a costly position that they lost the ball. Matt Timoko, who signed a extension for the Canberra Raiders, scored a try 3 minutes into the second half. Parramatta caught again short on the edges. Look, there was a last-ditch effort from Dylan Brown to try and put Matt Timoko into touch. I don't know how to comment on that one. He sort of grabbed him with one hand, I guess, one hand, and tried to pull him into touch. I don't know whether he should have tried with two hands. I don't know what I would have done in that position. I don't think I'd even get into that position, to be honest. I'm not a player. I don't know whether, as a player, he should have maybe tried with two hands, or whether it was just a case of, in the act of Matt Timoko trying to score, that was the best way that Dylan could have tried to take him out of play. But maybe it was the strength of Matt Timoko that got him over the line, and it was a amazing put down in the end, because it did look like he was going to go out, but unfortunately he wasn't. But look, Maika Sivo, who many think that should be playing New South Wales Cup, and look, I am one of them. I think that last week he should have come back through New South Wales Cup after having that 3-week suspension from that high tackle in the trial game. I think that he should have come back through reserve grade, and that is because of the fact that last season we had 22 weeks of suspensions. Discipline cost us badly, and in the trial games that was a lack of discipline, and that cost Maika 3 weeks, and I think he should have been in reserve grade coming back. But I'm not the coach. I'm not Brad Arthur, who is also under a lot of pressure as well. He got selected for this game and the last game. I wouldn't have done that, but that's just my personal opinion. And it's also many Parramatta fans' opinions as well. Some at the game have commented saying that he looked lazy in attack. He didn't really take the hit-ups. There was times where he was, I guess, caught straight away when a kick was downfield. In my opinion, I think he's too big for a winger. I don't think he's a winger. I don't think he should play in first grade, to be honest, at the moment. I don't know who you would bring in as a winger for him, with Hayes Dunster going down injured last week, I think it may have been. I can't remember, to be honest. I'm that rattled with this result, so I can't really think straight, to be honest. But I know that Hayes Dunster is out injured for a extended period of time, so I don't know who you would bring in for Maika Sivo. Look, if you have a suggestion, let me know who you would bring in. But Gutho missed the conversion after Maika's first try, and with 22 minutes to go, Canberra led 17 points to 4. Look, the interesting thing about that Gutho goal kick is the fact that he missed that one. But there was a Parramatta no try, and that was the Maika's first attempt at a try when he went over the ball, when he went over the line from that Clint Gutherson pass that was knocked on into the Canberra player. The funny thing is when it came up no try, Gutho's just kicked it from the sideline. Hasn't really lined it up, just put the ball down, or he put the ball down on the tee whilst the decision was being made, and then as soon as it came up no try, I guess a bit of a kick in anger, and he's got the ball between the posts. He's converted it, but this time he failed to do so, unfortunately. Danny Levi, who's having a great season for the Canberra Raiders, has scored 4 tries in 4 games. He's one of, if not the leading try scorer for the Canberra Raiders. He scored a try. It went up no try at first, but then the bunker ruled that he was onside after Xavier Savage kicked it inside after a break. So at that point, Canberra led 21 points to 4. Parramatta have a no try through Sean Lane due to 2 players in the tackle, and look, that was a story of Parramatta's night. The calls weren't going their way. And look, this try by Canberra, the next try by Canberra to Hudson Young, was probably the most disappointing part of the game for me. And it was when Matt Timoko, he started off from the outside of the field and just basically made his way into the inside of the field, and he beat about 5 or 6 Parramatta players through the middle, broke the line. Hudson Young was backing up in support. He scores the try. Fogarty converts. Canberra leads 33 points to 4. But going back to that try, that's what really disappointed me. That was a low point in the game for me. Obviously, before the game, or during that game, to get to 33 points to 4 was really disappointing. But I guess, look, to beat 5 or 6 Parramatta players through the middle, and I don't think look, there was, I guess, in my opinion anyway, there was hand grabs, and to get through the middle like that, very disappointing. As I said, 5 or 6 players through the middle. Canberra score a try and convert. Look, again, Parramatta win something again, if they could win something, and that was the second captain's challenge after a one-on-one strip, and I think Jermaine Hopgood ended up with the ball there, but as I said, shortly after that, on the second tackle, I should say, geez, I'm really struggling today. The second tackle of that set, they lose the ball again through handling errors. So they get the ball back through the captain's challenge and through a one-on-one strip, and then they lose the ball very shortly after. So, look, it was really, really disappointing, the handling errors. And, look, that's what probably, I think, cost the Parramatta team the game, just their handling errors. Canberra, a little bit later, got a penalty, and surprisingly, they took the 2 points. I don't know why they wouldn't have tried to inflict more pain on Parramatta and try and score a try, to be honest. But they took the 2 and 35 points to 4. Dylan Brown, who I don't know how he did it, but from the judge that was judging the Dally M's, they were giving the Dally M points in that game, gave Dylan Brown 1 point. So I don't know if you have to give a losing player, a player on a losing team, any points, but he gave Dylan Brown 1 point, and that certainly raised a lot of questions as to this Dally M voting system that we have in rugby league, as to how accurate that is. And a lot of people are saying, why did Dylan Brown get 1 point? Well, it's strange to me. I'm sure there could have been Canberra players that got that 1 point for sure. I mean, they won the game 41 points to 8, and most of, if not all, the players in the Parramatta side were very disappointing. So, someone like James Schiller could have got a point. But Dylan Brown got 1 point. Maybe it was for his pass to Maika Sivo for his second try. Look, Maika's tries, so they're only like 5 metres out, both of them. He's still got to score the try, but I guess, I just come back to, I don't think he's a winger. I think he's too big for a winger. Yeah, sure, 10 metres out from the line, trying to use that size to score a try, it can be effective, but I just think he's too big for a winger. He doesn't get that much metres, I don't think, from the hit-ups that he does from the sets, early on in the sets, and that's probably why he's used there as well. But he gets confused in the defence. He comes in, he tries to jam in and leaves a massive gap. I saw when James Schiller made a break around Maika Sivo, you could just see that Maika was so far infield. James Schiller, they passed the ball out to him. He made the break along the touch line, and it led to a try. I can't remember which try that one was. It might have been the Matt Timoko first try that he scored, but just so much room for James to get around Maika, and as Maika's too big, he didn't have the speed to chase and turn and get Schiller down. So I don't know. As I said, I think he should be playing New South Wales Cup. As much as I love Maika Sivo as a great player at times, and I will say at times, but just lately, he's not a first-grade winger, in my opinion, and many others. Matt Timoko, as I said, scored 2 tries in the game. He scored the last try, 40, and Fogarty converted, 41 points to 8. Canberra win 7 tries to 2 in a comprehensive victory after losing to the Sharks last week after leading 18-0 at half-time. So, what does that mean for Parramatta? Well, look, that means they are 2 wins out of 5 in this competition. They are sitting down the bottom of the ladder in 14th position, equal on points with the Dragons, and obviously the Titans and Rabbitohs are down below them. So, look, it's not a great way to start the year. At the start of the year, I thought they may. It looked like so much potential. It looked like it could have been a 5 from 5 start or even a 4 from 5 start. I mean, Parramatta got the win against Canterbury in round 1. They were leading Penrith in round 2 at half time by 2 points. That game, I thought maybe they potentially could have lost that one, but they went into that game with a really good record against Penrith. Round 3, they just beat Manly 28 points to 24 after being down 14-0, I think it was, or something like that. And they showed resilience and came back. And, of course, that was the game that Mitchell Moses fractured his foot, unfortunately. Against the Tigers last week, look, that was just an embarrassment. And this week against the Raiders was an embarrassment as well. I would call it very disappointing. Very disappointing game from the Eels. And, look, the Eels fans, including myself, are really disappointed, and we are calling for changes to this team for this week. What changes should happen? Look, I really don't know what can happen with Mitchell Moses being out. There's not a lot of depth at Parramatta. The New South Wales Cup team lost again on the weekend, so they haven't won a game this year, so struggling in that competition. Look, if I was Brad Arthur, who, as I said before, is under a lot of pressure as well, and the fans are calling for his head, and if I was him, I would blood Ethan Sanders into the halfback position, move Dylan Brown back to 5'8". You could put Maika Sivo into New South Wales Cup. You could put Bailey Simonson back onto the wing. You could put Blaze Talangi on into the centre with Will Penasini. I think, Blaze's favoured position is 5'8", but it is a big challenge in first grade. He's had 2 games there now, lost both 2 games. It is a lot of pressure at this time for him as a young kid in a team that is losing and trying to get wins, so it's a lot of pressure for him. So put him back to the centre position and bring Ethan in. That alone will be a lot of pressure as well for Ethan coming into the first grade squad as it is now, because he's a young kid potentially going to Canberra next season. So, look, might as well get the most out of him while Mr. Moses is out. Back in the old days, your second-rate halfback was the one who came into the first-grade squad when your first-grade halfback was injured or on representative duty. So I don't see any difference as to why that should be now. I mean, get him in there. He's going to play first grade at some stage. There's a lot of raps on him, so he's going to play first grade. Ease him in. It's going to be tough against the Cowboys this week, but it is at Parramatta. A lot of the old boys will be there as a bit of a old boys celebration day, so a lot of legends of Parramatta of the club will be there. So, look, it'll be easier to, I guess, make your debut at home in front of your home crowd. I guess it could be, just like we saw Blaze Talangi make his first grade debut at home and score a try. So I guess, in a way, that could be easier. But that's the way I'd be going. So I'd be dropping Maika. I'd be putting Bailey onto the wing. Dylan Brown back to 6. Ethan Sanders in at 7. Look, Regan Campbell-Gillard, he was put on report for a careless high tackle, and I think that was disappointing to see at the time. I think that could have been a bit of fatigue and frustration towards the end of the game. Thankfully, though, he faces a fine of $1,800 to $2,500, depending on his plea. So he won't miss any football. Let's hope he doesn't do a Ryan Madison and not pay the fine, but I'm sure he will. If not, the club should pay that fine. If he doesn't, we don't want to see a repeat of last season with Ryan Madison. Ryan Madison, another one who probably is under a lot of pressure to keep his spot in the team. I think he didn't have the best of games yesterday. I mean, most of the Parramatta Eels didn't have the best of games yesterday, but Ryan Madison, he played 67 minutes. Five runs for 52 metres. That's not what you want out of your second rower. You want a bit more effort in that, that's for sure. 5 runs for 52 metres, that's not enough, in my opinion. You should be at least getting over 100. Regan Campbell-Gillard, 13 runs, 125 metres, was the most run getter for the forwards. Bailey Simonson, 141 metres in his comeback game in first grade. But look, Ryan Madison, I guess, would be under a bit of pressure. They started Ryan this week. After the first few weeks of the competition, he was starting off the bench. Junior Paulo, he went back to the bench for this game after starting last week against the Tigers. I think that's the way they've got to go with Junior for this year. I think it's been working. So I just think with that forward rotation, I think it's a good idea, especially when you have Regan Campbell-Gillard come off. You can have Junior Paulo on. Look, they're different players, but I think when both of those players are off the field at the same time, he struggles. Parramatta struggles for that forward momentum. So I think that needs to happen again. Go back to the bench. Look, Ryan Madison, he made 37 tackles, but as I said, his running game wasn't the best. 5. Look, it's a tough game, rugby league, and look, I take my hat off to all these players who play first grade. I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. But as a fan, I'm just giving my opinions as to players' performances. So I'm not bagging these players. It's just a fan opinion as to their performance and what I would like to see as a fan of what could happen in the team. But as I said, I think Ryan Madison could be under a lot of pressure for his position in the team. I guess with Bryce Cartwright out at the moment, it probably makes it a little bit easier for him to stay in the team. But certainly I'm sure there could be some other players, maybe like Luca Moretti, who didn't get that much game time, made that mistake on the field, but potentially he could start and Ryan go back to the bench. As I said, not a lot of depth in New South Wales Cup, so have to see what happens there. Wiramu Greg, he came back for his first game in first grade this year after injury. Look, he had an alright performance, I thought. Obviously knocked that ball on, but still he had an okay game. 6 runs for 60 metres in his return to first grade. Potentially could have been a lot more. I think his first couple of runs off the in the first couple of sets were really good. Quick play the balls, but then made that mistake. Maybe that didn't give him a lot of confidence. So look, what else? Look, that'll do. A pretty disappointing performance from the Parramatta Eels. I'm sure they'll go back to the drawing board. I hope they make some changes to this team. I've always been of the belief that if you pick a team, they lose, potentially you could go with that team for the week after to prove your performance and see if you can get the win. But I think with 2 losses in a row now, I think there needs to be some changes in this starting lineup and on the bench. And I really hope when Team List Tuesday comes out tomorrow, there is some changes in this Parramatta side, because they are playing the Cowboys next up at CommBank Stadium on Saturday. And look, as I said, there may be an interesting crowd there at that game. It's Old Boys game, 5:30 p.m, Saturday the 13th of April. Look, it's going to be an interesting game, that one, that's for sure. The Cowboys, they've been one of the form teams of the year, sitting in second spot, winning 4 games out of the year. They had a good win against the Titans, who are struggling as well, but they had a good win on the weekend as well. So 2 Queensland teams up the top of the ladder. But it's going to be difficult against the Cowboys. We seem to have struggled lately against the Cowboys. We beat them in the prelim final, but then have struggled, especially up there. But this one is at CommBank Stadium. So, look, I hope there is a good crowd there. I understand why there wouldn't be, as people fans and members are really disappointed and upset with the team's performance on Sunday. But I really hope there's a good crowd there. Former legends of the club are going to be there celebrating Old Boys Day. They're going to do a lap of honour. So let's just support them. Let's get out there. Parramatta fans, let's get out there. Support the legends, the Old Boys of the Blue and Gold club, the Eels. And look, let's get behind whoever is named in this team on Team List Tuesday. Let's just get behind them, whoever takes the field on Saturday, and let's get a win against the Cowboys. Parramatta, they need it. It's round 6. They don't want to fall too far behind the top 8. The Panthers are in 8th position on 6 points, so we don't want to fall too far behind the rest of the competition. If I sounded a little bit disappointed, well, I am. And look, if you've got any other comments, just send me a message and we'll chat about it together. So thank you very much for listening to Troy's take on round 5. Hopefully it is I'm in a bit brighter mood next Saturday night about 7:30 p.m. And in the next Troy's Take podcast. Thank you for listening. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube as well. Please share with your family and friends as well. Thank you very much for the support throughout the week and throughout the year so far. I really, really appreciate it. And look, I'll sign this off by saying, Go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. See you next time.